Hello and welcome to Comic Book Herald's Creannotators. I'm Dave Busing, founder and editor-in-chief of comicbookherald.com. For today's interview, I'm very excited to be talking to Jason Shiga, the creator of comics like Meanwhile, Demon, Fleep, Book Hunter, Empire State, and now Adventuregame Comics Leviathan, coming out from Abrams Comics Arts. Adventuregame is an interactive graphic novel. It's a choose-your-own-adventure. It's part story, part maze, part game, in which you go on a quest in a small coastal town to uncover a mystical wand and ultimately defeat a great Leviathan. It's super fun. It's a blast. If you've experienced Meanwhile before, it's going to be in that similar kind of vein. Jason, thanks so much for joining. How long has Adventuregame Comics been in the works for you?
Well, I've been doing interactive comics for about 25 years now, if you can believe it. Um, my very first comics that I made when I got started, when I was just a teenager, they were interactive.
Okay.
I always loved the idea of the readers being able to make choices that kind of determine how the story unfolds and leads to all these different endings. In a sense, it's been in the works for 25 years. Um, but my career has taken some detours along the way. But from the very get go, I've been doing interactive comics. Now, my first interactive comics were just they were mini comics, and I wish I had some to show you, but they usually involved the reader unfolding the comics in interesting ways or opening them up. I made a few that were in the shape of flexagons. Um, and I guess one of my earlier ones was a comic that was it had like rotating cardboard wheels that would have windows in them, and then as you rotated them, they would reveal panels behind the first disc.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
They're all very complicated. But it wasn't until I guess let me think. It was around 2008 that I actually had one of these sort of interactive experiments published, and that was Meanwhile through Abrams.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it's been in your DNA for a long time, and you had Meanwhile come out. For folks who haven't experienced Meanwhile, it's highly recommended. It's incredibly unique, certainly in the graphic novel space, in the sense of how involved and complex the choose your own adventure component of that is. The thing that I love probably the most about Meanwhile, and I actually came to it this year for the first time, but it's the fact that you can lose and will lose consistently, and the idea of comic book story that is winnable or losable, I think is incredibly fun. That's something you're carrying over here to Adventuregame. Now, in between Meanwhile in these comics, you've done a whole host of other things, including Demon, for example, right? Which is a long running ongoing series, which is, I suppose, more traditional, right? Comic style came out through, I believe, First Second. It's a story about, it's a very mature story, first off, we should say, about a individual who is a demon who can possess other people's bodies when they die. What made you want to come back to the interactive space at this particular juncture?
So yeah, I took like you mentioned, I took a little break from doing interactive comics, but yeah, if I mean throughout my career, I've always tried to kind of alternate between one interactive project and then one sort of more straightforward narrative.
Yeah.
So Demon, uh, even though it's just one project, it was a massive project, over 600 pages.
Yeah.
So it's in a way it was a 10-year break from interactive comics for me. Just working on this massive tome. But yeah, even in my mini comics days, I always tried try to alternate between the interactive and the straightforward narratives.
Sure, sure. No, that makes sense. So I had a moment playing Adventure Game. I've got my copy right over here. It's super fun. I love it. People should check it out. But I had a moment where I laughed out loud. A few, but like one in Delight, where I was playing the story, and I went to catch the ferry, and the guy was like, "We only run at dusk." And it was so reminiscent of a billion video games I've played where you can only do certain challenges during day or night, right? Like certainly I had Zelda flashbacks. I think is probably the big one for me that was a touch point. If this book feels much like a side-scrolling video game, I'm sure there's a lot of intentionality. What are some of your own inspirations and video games that you kind of wanted to emulate?
Oh well, it's funny that you mentioned Zelda because that was the biggest influence on this book.
Sure. Okay.
So there's the day night cycle from Ocarina of Time. I'm sure you remember that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Um, but I also work in a little bit of Lost Woods into the book as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
If,
With the ocean.
yeah, there's a
Okay.
part where you get stranded on a desert island and you have to kind of navigate your way back to the mainland.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, do you love the Lost Woods or do you hate the Lost Woods, or you hate and then you appreciate them?
it's I love it. I love
Yeah,
mazes. I love puzzles. Um, the Lost Woods isn't quite a puzzle in Zelda. It's more of like a gate or like a combination lock that you can't really get past unless you have some information. I mean, it's possible you could get lucky and just happen to pick the right set of ordinal directions to
sure.
to get through. But yeah, chances are you get lost.
Yep.
um, but yeah, I always thought that was kind of like a clever way of gating off certain sections of the game. And yeah, it's I can't speak highly enough of the Zelda series, especially the very first one, Legend of Zelda.
Sure. Yeah.
And when you're in the book, when you're wandering through the town, I you might notice I intentionally designed it to kind of look like a Super NES style, adventure game.
Yeah.
Like what's the second one? Oh shoot, uh, what was the second Zelda one for the NES?
Oh, I don't know the NES versions. I had a copy when I was like 8, and it was like completely impossible to me. So I hated it for years until I finally got to 64, and then Ocarina of Time was my speed.
Ah,
Yeah.
um, but but yeah, it's I'm, I'm glad you picked up on the Zelda influence. 'Cause
Yeah, it's super fun. No, it's like you have conversations with individuals. You can pick up information that may or may not be critical to your journey, and then yeah, you walk out in the town and you're given a map and you're given the choice of turn to this page if you want to go this direction, turn to this page if you want to go another direction. I won't spoil certainly all the interplay, right? But the day night thing definitely made me laugh because it's like you can kind of get in these cycles of oh shoot, I have to go back to the hotel, I have to go to sleep, I have to change the time, and it's very very reminiscent of some of these video games, which is really fun because it's stuff you don't see in comics a heck of a lot, or at least I haven't. So with Adventure Game, I thought that stuff was really fun. In terms of the book play, there's a few items in here that I had not seen you do before. We just talked about a couple. Some are like there's an option to go to a page with no number. You have to fill in the number based on information you've accumulated. Was that the piece you were like most excited to add, or was there something you enjoyed more than that?
yeah, well, that was super fun because I guess for me, like I love the original fighting fantasy game books, the original Choose Your Own Adventure book
Yeah.
series. But I guess one of my issues that I have with all of those books is in almost all of those books, the choices that you make are presented to you. You don't
Hmm.
ever, or you rarely get to use like your imagination to, try to, actively think of, think of a solution to a problem or an idea and then apply that. So usually like a menu list. Um, but I wanted, in this book, I wanted to give, the readers a chance to actually use their imaginations a little. So there's a few points in the book where the page, the box that usually contains the page number is blank,
Yeah.
and the reader has to think, about all the clues, everything they encountered in the story, um, and fill in the number themselves. And I try to ramp it up a little so that the first two times that you're presented with that blank box, it's kind of more more elementary puzzles. But then the last one, I don't know if you solved the last one, but it's a real mind bender. You have to really think outside the box to get that last one.
Now, yes, the last one definitely tricked me. It definitely puzzled me. It's a very satisfying experience with some of the other ones because it's this thing of like it's that video game thing where you're like, okay, I had this conversation with somebody and they mentioned a detail, and you're thinking in the back of your head like, maybe I'll need that later, but maybe not. So then it's very satisfying when you get to a point you're like, oh, I know the answer to that. Like I actually know where to go. Because otherwise, obviously, you got to circle around, and the book allows you to do that. Um, I thought it was interesting in adventure games. Like one of the more memorable aspects of Meanwhile, like I mentioned, is you can lose and the book can end repeatedly, like before you necessarily feel like you've accomplished it all or like you've seen as much as you wanted to. In an adventure game, that's harder. I think there's more of a cyclical, circular nature to it to allow you to continue trying things. Maybe it's a little more encouraging. I guess was that intentional on your part in terms of like encouraging, I don't know, maybe a younger reader set, maybe just more accomplishments for the older reader set? What was the planning there?
It wasn't. I honestly I didn't think about it too much. There's I guess I should talk a little about one of I guess one of my favorite series in the in the game book medium, which was I don't know if you ever saw this, but there is a series called Time Machine.
Okay.
Um, so it was different from the Choose Your Own Adventure series because no matter what choices you made, you would never get any of these bad endings where you would die.
Mm, okay.
So it always kind of pushed you back to the main path. So that series in particular, I loved as a child. Um, it's I think of it. Well, I mentioned mazes earlier, but there's um, there's a maze author named Greg Bright who um, he did a whole book of mazes that were very influential to me,
Hmm.
and a lot of them had no dead ends. They only had a beginning, an end, and then just this massive tangle of passageways in between.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the idea of for this book, anyways. Just because of the way it was laid out, that there would be kind of a very minimal number of endings.
Yeah. I do like that. I enjoy that too. So I per your recommendations, I picked up some of the choose your own adventures.
Okay.
I got these. Yeah, I saw you reference these in a post you did on your Twitter account. So I picked up "You Are a Shark" and "Inside UFO 5440" before this from my library. I had never done these before, and coming to them now, obviously in conjunction with these comics, was so fun. It was so fun to go and play these. I'm a billion percent do. I have three young kids. I'm a billion percent doing "You Are a Shark" with my oldest. Like that's going to be a blast. But yes, like the one thing those books do is they end all the time, right? There's a million different, or at least the ones I've done.
Yeah.
There's a million different endings,
Yeah.
some of which are happy, some of which are like real. Like there was one, one I got in You Are a Shark was like you can pick to be a simple land animal, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
And then basically I wound up in like a really depressing zoo. Like it was the saddest, most depressing ending. And I put the book down after. And I'm like, this is terrible. But it was really fun. It was really fun. So I have to thank you for recommending those books
No,
because, but I can see the inspiration. It's amazing, right? You've brought that to comics.
my favorite ending in that book is yeah, there's one point where you get to be a mosquito, and then
Yeah.
you fly towards some little girl who's sleeping, and she just smacks you.
She swats you. Yeah. It's wild. It's wild. It's so funny. It's like kind of dark, like kind of morbid for a a kid's book, but I guess it's reality. Um, okay, so that's amazing. What do you think it is about the choose your own adventure style, the interactive graphic novel, that has translated so well to comics for you? You know, because there's these books, right? These are prose and illustrations. What do you think it about is about the comics medium that has made that so successful for you?
Again, as much as I love these these early game books, um, there's something I wanted to do with comics that I felt was missing with those game books, which was comics is a visual medium. I wanted to present everything visually. So I wanted to present the idea of choice visually. So you'll notice in all of my interactive comics, choice is usually represented by, like a trail or a line, literally branching, and the readers can, actually see, right in front of them the universe, just kind of splitting into two parts. And yeah, I for me that comics is just the perfect medium, to visually represent, the idea of choices and choice making, the multiverse,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just for me, it's a match made in heaven.
Yeah, no, it definitely shows. I mean, the enthusiasm is infectious, I think, with these types of books. I One question about Adventure Game is, so the first series here is called Adventure Game Comics, Leviathan, and the quest ultimately is like you're trying to acquire this tool of power, and there's a Leviathan, there's a great sea monster out there, right? We don't quite get there yet. Um, but you referenced in the build to this, there's also the philosopher Hobbes' Leviathan, and there's I think some textual reference here, like life being nasty, brutish, and short. You know, is the bit I always remember. Why that particular philosophical connection in terms of integrating it into this work?
Yeah, it's I remember coming across that idea as a teenager, and it, just kind of his he had a more mathematical approach to political philosophy that I liked,
Hmm.
and I think I think the book, I don't want to toot my own horn. I think it's fun,
Yeah.
but I want I want it to be a little bit more. I want to introduce kids to just a little introduction to political philosophy, and yeah, it's just I always try to get, like, sneak in a little deeper, meaning into my books. Um, it's I know, whatever, Hobbes is probably fallen out of fashion these days. People like Rousseau, or Locke, the or whatever, our founding our founding documents are, probably more Lockean than
Yeah.
Hobbesian. But yeah, but to me, Hobbes was always my guy.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Yeah. So you got it in there. Very good. Very good. Um, eh, with Adventure Game Comics and I suppose meanwhile, or really any of the interactive graphic novels, it seems like one of the challenges would be, I mean, obviously the design of it, but also like when you compare it to your other, I guess, more traditional comic storytelling, like it's hard to build this thing and have it be a story, and have characters that we get attached to and invest in those sorts of things. How do you try to navigate that when you're designing an interactive novel to to merge both worlds so that it's a game, but it's also like a story we care about. How do you pull that off?
Um, I have to be honest, it's tricky.
Hmm.
There's a particularly in Leviathan, I wanted I wanted there to be a map right out, right out of the gate. I wanted you to just walk out of that tavern and have a, whole world spread out before you,
Yeah,
like in the best Zelda games. Um, but I guess the downside of that is, it's hard. It's hard to, get a narrative with a, beginning, middle, and end. Because if everything's presented to you right at the beginning, what's to stop the reader from just walking over to the ending right away?
sure.
Um, so I had to build in some parts of the map that weren't accessible at first, that were kind of gated off, and then little steps along the way, so you couldn't access those gates unless you got to other gates.
Yeah,
Um, and then once I kind of had the rough structure of that, I kind of basically built myself a flow chart to kind of you know keep all the story elements you know in my head, uh, or at least on a piece of paper. Um, and yeah, the flow chart wasn't. It was different from the flow chart I made for Meanwhile, because I mean you've read the book. There's so many choices.
yeah,
It would literally look just like a tangle of spaghetti if I were to map every single node in this book.
right.
Um, so the flowchart wasn't actually uh, the nodes weren't actually pages; they were story elements. Um, anyways, I sound like a crazy guy trying to describe this.
Yeah,
Anyways, this is all just to say it was tricky. It was tricky,
yeah, yeah,
um, but you know with a lot of co- things, comics, books in general, a lot of it is just planning. Um, I had to do, gosh, maybe 3 or 4 months of planning before I could just get started with the drawing.
yeah.
Uh, but uh, but yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for a while, so I'm pretty good at the planning part of things.
Sure, sure. Yeah, you have a sense of where you're going and how you want to pull it off. I was reading a comics journal interview from a few years back, and at the end of it, you teased a very ambitious project called the Box.
Yes,
Is that still a thing in development?
it's still a thing. It's still a thing in
Okay.
development, and
Yeah.
oh, you know what? I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you a little bit. I'm,
Awesome. Yeah.
I made I made myself a little prototype.
Okay.
But this is kind of what I've been working on the side for the past 5 6 years.
Nice.
Um, so I'm kind of slowly chipping away at it, but this whole time I've been working on a 600-page interactive comic.
Dang.
It's the shape of it is a little unusual because
Uh-huh.
instead of one spine like a regular book, this one has three spines. It opens up like this.
Oh. Yeah.
And once you have it like this, then you can open each page like this.
Oh, wild. Yeah.
And it's like meanwhile, there's these tabs
Uh-huh.
that can take you from one page to another. Um, this side also has tabs that can take you from one page to another in this section of the book. And this is the really exciting part. uh, there's actually parts in the book where you can actually cross over
Oh yeah.
from one set of pages into the other set of pages.
And now you're on
Now
like a mirror
you're in
dimension.
the other adventure. When you're
Yeah.
in this adventure, these pages that you're not reading can be used to basically store, little bits of memory.
What?
You can have like little puzzles and brain teasers in here. Uh,
Yeah.
in this one, when you're walking around, there's like a little map that changes as you're walking around. Anyways,
This is so cool. Yeah.
this is what I've been working on for the past 6 years. Kind of in, in between projects like Demon and Leviathan, and
Yeah.
oh yeah, hopefully this will be coming soon.
Heck yeah. That's amazing. That's super exciting. Okay, I'm glad I caught that in an interview and glad I asked because that was very very cool to see. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, amazing. All right, so we got all the work going on here. I'm curious. A couple pieces of inspiration, like in terms of the choose your own adventure stuff. Number one, are you a, I guess, or even just in terms of your own writing style, are you a fan of Death Note
I,
by chance?
I'm such a huge Death Note fan. I love
Okay.
it's like I mentioned before, I'm super into like puzzles and games and mazes.
Yeah, yeah,
All these text adventure games from the 80s. And yeah, oh my gosh, Death Note is just right in my wheelhouse. It's for those of you listening who haven't read it, let me just give you a short pitch, which is
please, yeah.
it's it's what I don't want to spoil too much, but the premise is there's a teenager who finds a book which has an interesting property, which is whatever name he writes in the book, that person will die. Um, anyways, so it's the simplest premise you could imagine, but the and this is one of my favorite things when authors do it. But they take just a very simple premise and explore every single nook and cranny and possibility and
Yes.
combination to and just like wring every little drop of just puzzle making and consequence and out of this one premise. And it's I guess the form of the book is basically it's like just a whatever 20-volume chess match between this this teenager who finds the book and this other genius who's trying to find the teenager. And they're all, I mean, every volume they're just trying to outwit each other. It's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. I was catching up on Demon, and it definitely I saw a lot of similar elements in terms of, like you just said, taking, okay, here's the concept, what, how many directions can we take that, right? What are all the things we can do with that? But then also just like you said, sort of that puzzle making and that equation solving of, okay, if X happens, then Y. But if Y happens, then Z. And then if he chooses, and like just those conversations that they have between Light and L throughout Death Note, certainly in the early volumes, just like exploring every possible nook and cranny of a decision. I definitely see a lot of that in your work as well, which can be incredibly entertaining. I think it's like the commitment to truly diving in. It's like there's no half measure. It's really fun.
Oh, I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, yeah. Another reference point that I'm curious. Have you read You Are Deadpool?
No,
Is a five. Okay,
but
no pressure, but I think you might find it kind of fun. It's a 5-issue series that Al Ewing wrote for Marvel a few years back,
okay.
and it's a choose your own adventure miniseries, but it's like got elements of role playing and die rolling in it. So a lot of your direction like the panels that you go to and the pages that you turn to are based on what you've rolled on the die. And then also like there's like certain, I think it's like you like bring certain weapons with you and you do battle, and it's like if you roll higher than, so certain D&D elements, like if you roll higher than a 4, you win this battle and then you turn to this page, but if you rolled lower, then you turn to this page. So it's got like a level of randomness incorporated into it, a la die-based role-playing games. That was another reference point where I was like, oh, these are similar levels of fun. I feel like you might get a kick out of that one too.
Okay, I'll check that out definitely. It's called You Are Deadpool.
It's called You Are Deadpool. It's like 5 issues, and it came out. I mean, if you read the first issue, you'll get it. It came out, I want to say like 2016, 2017, something like that. Yeah.
Hey, I'll definitely check that out.
Okay, cool. So all right, so let's see. What else do we want to talk about? What's the planned cadence for Adventuregame Comics? You said this is volume 1. Like, what's the cadence for possible future releases?
So there's going to be a new one coming out every year. So Leviathan's the first one. The second one is called The Beyond. I'm just kind of wrapping that one up right now. And the Beyond is I'm sorry, I haven't come up with a good elevator pitch for it yet because I'm still drawing it. But it's set mostly in the afterlife.
Oh, okay.
And you kind of find yourself in this purgatory, and there's these portals that you're trying to figure out how they work. And the third one, the title is still to be determined, but the third one is going to be set in feudal Japan.
Okay.
And I guess the idea is you can play the book as a ninja or a samurai. You encounter the same obstacles, but depending what skills you choose at the very beginning, they can that'll determine how you deal with those obstacles.
That's fun. That's cool. So so these will all branch off in different story directions, right? Each adventure game is going to be kind of a different setting and premise. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Very cool.
Again, my big influences were those early game books.
Yeah.
Like the Fighting Fantasy series and the old Choose Your Own Adventure series.
Yeah, and they all do that too in terms of like, yeah, it's a whole new thing. You're trapped in a temple picking to be an animal, or you're trapped in a UFO trying to escape, right? Different premise each time. Cool. Awesome. All right, so this has been really good. What else do you have coming up? Is there any other stuff that you want to make sure people know about, or places to find you?
Just Leviathan is coming out around mid-August. I think August 13th, 14th. But you can pre-order it on Amazon. But yeah, if you want to wait to support your local bookstore, you can do that too. Yeah, it's I'm gonna say it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, no, it really is. It's very very good time. I love this style of book, but I do have to recommend as well. Your non-interactive stuff is quite good too. So people should check out Demon, Book Hunter, Empire State, these other works as well. Like I said, I've been catching up on Demon this past week, and it is so captivating. It is so depraved at times. I'm like I can't believe it went there, but it's also like I can't put it down. So I've been having a blast with that one as well.
Oh yeah, I should tell the kids listening, if you're a 9-year-old kid who loves Leviathan, do not read Demon.
No.
Do not check out
Yeah.
do not check out my previous series.
No, absolutely not. It is definitely adults only. I love I think the second volume opens with a thanks to your wife, and it says, thank you to my wife who's still mad about this being dedicated to her in the first volume, which is understandable. Amazing. Jason, this has been a blast. I've been loving the work. We're definitely going to be promoting Adventure Game Comics. People can find the links here in the show notes and all that stuff. But otherwise, thanks so much for your time this morning. I appreciate you talking.
All right. Thank you so much.